Most people look at money as a means to acquire things. Whether it's a house, a vacation, or a specific lifestyle, most people spend their lives working for money so they can buy things. But what if I told you that money is just a form of energy? The value of your time and energy spent doing a job stored in the form of money, so you can later trade it for products and services others have created with their own time and energy. Because we're able to trade energy in this way, we've been able to develop a culture where we can all independently specialize and focus on a single contribution. This has allowed us to scale and make progress in things like education, science, and tech, even toward the evolution of the human race as a whole. We no longer have to spend long days tending to the homestead to ensure we have enough food to eat come winter months. More than ever, we're getting smarter, living longer, and have more freedom to enjoy. But despite all these benefits money has brought us, it's the second most common reason for divorce, according to Ramsey Solutions, the second leading cause to personal stress following work-related stress, and roughly half of the global wealth, about 42% to be exact, is owned by only 1% of individuals, according to the Global Wealth Report 2021. What that tells me is that money has taken a front row seat amongst other stressors like danger, disease, immorality. And while it's liberated us in many ways, it imprisons us with underpaid jobs and overpaid expenditures. I had to ask, how can something so beneficial to society be equally as detrimental to individuals? I've seen both sides of this personally, from the streaming flow of abundance certain people live to the conflict others experience daily due to the lack of financial resource. Because I grew up in some pretty crappy situations because of financial stress, I've always been interested in how to create a different outcome in my own life. And despite having read all the books, acquiring incredible mentors, and making well over $1 million in the first decade of my career, I still struggled with keeping money. So today I want to talk about money lies that keep you broke and tired, and hopefully they're a little bit different than what you've read in the books. Like I said, I read them, embodied them, but there were a few key things I got wrong which delayed my progress a lot. Maybe you can avoid making the same mistakes that I did early on. Hustle versus flow. The first lie is that you can manifest money into your life by sheer willpower. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of The Secret and the power of visualizing and intentionalizing, but there's a major difference between meandering about life, expecting something life-changing like winning the lottery to slap you in the face, versus actively following the flow. If you'll give me a moment to elaborate, I believe there are two ways to make something happen. I call this hustle versus flow. While we're all pretty familiar with the idea of hustling, the idea of flow is often diluted with a mixture of contradicting philosophies.
You are a walking contradiction, and I find that rather fascinating.
Which often sums up to some sort of magical practice that most people can't really explain, but hey, it works for them, right?
Wingardium Leviosa.
The truth is, this flow is all about being consistently open to and moving towards opportunities, despite an indirect or unclear path. Whereas hustle is about plowing a most direct way to a specific outcome. I will be doing an in-depth video on this topic soon, so if you haven't yet, subscribe to stick around for it and make sure you hit that like button to let me know you like topics like these. At the end of the day, they're both rooted on a similar foundation, which is why they tend to work. The root foundation isn't just sheer willpower, it's a combination of forces: willpower, curiosity, action, failure, growth, and consistency over time that together create the perfect storm. Without all the ingredients being present, sheer willpower just isn't going to cut it. Let me be clear here. Willpower is the first step that people often neglect, which is why it's frequently emphasized. But it isn't the only thing, nor is it the most important thing. The next lie is to think and grow rich. This is more of a misconception, not really a complete lie, and I'm probably just a slow learner, but you know when they tell you to think and grow rich? I started behaving like I was a multimillionaire. So I didn't think and grow rich, I spent and grew poor. It was literally a keeping up with the Joneses situation cloaked in sheep's skin. But I'm here to clarify that the saying goes, think and grow rich. And one of the things I realized is that rich people, like truly wealthy folks, don't actually tend to spend much in terms of income to spending ratio. So while my millionaire friend is buying an Apple Watch Ultra with 0.01% of her income, I'm blowing 0.3% of mine. And while that doesn't seem like much, let me put this into perspective. In this example, 0.3% of her income would be equivalent to her spending around $2.4 million. Now, I have no business spending my cash like that. If I were really thinking like the rich, I'd be spending with the same income to spending ratios, not dollar amounts. And at 0.01% of my income, it would be like me spending $20 instead. Lie number 3, you can do all the things. This is a more recent lesson for me, and it's one that's been reiterated by each of my mentors over and over again. Yet I've failed to realize how crucial this is to really gain acceleration and scale in any endeavor. Most people look at financially independent folks and observe they seem to have their hands in just about everything, from investments, properties, successful businesses, a YouTube channel with millions of subscribers. They're doing it all, so I should do it all too. But the truth is, you have to focus first. Most everyone who's had the time and energy to do more is because they've mastered one system at a time. They didn't start the game as a huge juggling act. Trying to do so will only lead to one step in 100 directions instead of 100 steps in one, as I've heard Tim Ferriss describe. The next lie is that credit card points are worth it. I was one of those people that argued up and down the benefits of credit card points. I mean, you're going to spend the money anyways. Why not cash in on some free points? Here's the problem for most people. Yahoo Finance just wrote an article stating that 55% of Americans carry a balance on their credit card month to month, with 40% of those folks being in credit card debt for at least 5 years or more. This doesn't even account for those who choose to refinance homes or pull out extra loans to consolidate their debts. So it's really the small few, the ones who can stay out of debt period, that can take advantage and benefit from those points and preach it convincingly. But for the vast majority of folks, we are not above the psychology of spending, nor the skilled marketing of consumer brands and credit card companies. And I really think that if you think you are, you really have to check yourself. My husband Brett wanted to argue this point, and I get it, because he's one of those rare breeds who really dissects every dollar that we spend. Like, I doubt the man could spend $10,000 outside of food and rent on any given year. But most people, even the non-debt people, aren't super frugal like Brett or Grant Stephan. Most people, even the financially responsible ones, feel incentivized to spend more, even just a little bit, than what's actually necessary, because they're rewarded by points and benefits. But think about this. Why not invest $1,000 to accrue 8% in compound interest? That's $80+ year over year, instead of spending an extra $1,000 for a measly $50 cash back. And that's $50 on $1,000, assuming a 5% return without carrying a balance. For most credit card companies, you're lucky to get more than 2%, and even luckier if they don't make you spend those points on their platform. I argue that anyone who can afford to spend $10,000 for a few hundred cash back can also afford not to miss the few $100s in exchange for the due diligence of avoiding the risk of credit card psychology. That's not to say avoid credit cards if you're truly like Graham Stephan, but if you're scraping for pennies in rewards points, you're going about this wrong. In relation to investing the money instead, mathematically, it doesn't even come close to making sense. These credit card companies spend billions. You heard right, billions each year on marketing that we're so now culturally ingrained to believe these points really make sense when they're actually meant for the credit cards to win.
I will help save the world first, then take over the world.
This is why credit card companies not only win, they win big, like hundreds of billions a year type of big, and consumers as a whole lose. The last money lie we constantly tell ourselves is that it's okay to prioritize gains over health. If money is the second leading cause of personal and intrapersonal stress, let's look at how that translates to health. WebMD states that up to 90% of doctor visits are stress-related, and OSHA states that workplace stress has reported to cause 120,000 deaths in the US each year. We're literally killing our relationships and health over money. We've lost sight of what's truly important. Consumer spending has yet again reached another record all-time high. Most of us give up so much life trying to obtain a better life, and the hamster wheel never ends. How can we experience fully the joys of our possessions, entertainments, pets, and home when we're plagued by this paramount stress and exhaustion? How do we get to the bottom of all this? First, you gotta get out of the funk by addressing your energy limitations. It doesn't matter if you have all the right ideas. If you don't have enough energy to execute, this is like traveling through quicksand. If you don't have a way to resolve this, you can check out my free training, Better Energy for a Better Life. Link is in the description below. But you also need to start reevaluating your money psychology, as well as get real with what's truly important in your life. Take inventory on what actually serves you, not only in what you're spending money on, but in all the important areas of your life that cost you time, money, and energy. For instance, are your spaces both at work and home optimized to encourage clarity, growth, and satisfaction? Do you have money systems automated? Is your health on a progressive path? Are your relationships and contributions supporting your need to feel loved and connected? This is often easier said than done because we're swimming in an ocean of potential value. Money has liberated us to do so much. At the same time, there is a point when it's too much. It's about having the clarity to invest your time, money, and energy on what truly makes you feel fulfilled. At the end of the day, if you can figure that out, you can think about how you can flow into getting rich so you can do all the things and not worry about credit card debt or compromising your health because you're no longer broke and tired.